Poolside at the East Bank Club, a young lady, she asked me if I was Jewish. She said I could always convert. Then she asked if I was circumcised. And if I wasn't, they could take care of that. Who'd want to get circumcised later in life? She said we do it all the time. Stopping this week to help a lady biker who went over her handlebars on her bike on the Orleans Street Bridge crossing the Chicago River. She landed on her face. I pulled her off the pavement and she looked at me and asked, "Well, how bad is it?" I said, "It depends how you describe bad." Speaking to someone from France this week, he said people there voted into office an inferior candidate because they were so afraid of the other candidate, especially after that candidate was equated with Adolf Hitler. None of us want to make bad decisions, circumcision or no circumcision, flipping over our handlebars or voting for the wrong candidate. Maybe instead of asking how bad it can be, we should ask how good it can be. Welcome. Welcome to Sunday Coffee Hour. I'm Stanley Smith at Sunday Coffee Hour. We talk about everything and nothing. This week, we talked about Robert F. Kennedy Jr., upper people and downer people, how boron is good for arthritis, finding shells on the beach, and how it's better to be a failure than to be incomplete. The readings at Washington National Cathedral were from Jeremiah. The flock has been scattered by a bunch of bad shepherds, but God's going to gather the threads and make something new out of it. And from Ephesians, we're circumcised in the flesh by human hands. It's easier than being circumcised in the spirit. The gospel reading was from Mark. We're healed by simply touching the fringe of God's garment. The sermon at Washington National Cathedral was by Leonard Hamlin. He preached about being in perpetual bondage of being nice. We're worried about what evil's up to instead of focusing on the good. Mr. Hamlin said we're speaking to a divided reality and a divided country right now. We're saying one thing, and instead of doing something, we're doing nothing. Ballistics shows us that a small gunshot to the ear has tremendous reverberations. We're all victims of trauma, but we're not defined by it because we don't even recognize it in the first place. Karma is the unresolved trauma we carry over into the next day. We don't have to be defined by it because we've internalized it. A sermon is a communication of truth through personality. We all have a story to tell, and we tell it in our own unique way. It's always filtered through our unique personality. There's always a sense of truth in it because every person is part of the truth. We sometimes forget that and focus on the personality. We all need to be healed, and we all need to look for the answer. Sometimes our trying to figure it out gets in the way of finding the answer. When all we need to do is touch the very fringe of God's garment. It's not a circumcision. It's not a circumcision late in our lives. It's something we can do now. We all tread on each other's freedoms and personality. We infringe on each other intentionally and unintentionally, but we can infringe on one another and we can infringe on them in love. At St. James Cathedral, the sermon was by Stephen Balke. Stephen preached about summer vacation when fun turns into tragedy. Do we learn more from the fun or more from the tragedy? Stephen asked, why do we try to preserve life when we know it's going to end anyway? He gave the example of Christ raising Lazarus from the dead, just so he could die again later. What's the point of it all? Stephen said that when Minister Tim Keller from Redeemer Church in Manhattan was cured from cancer, he was quick to remind people that he wasn't cured. It was simply death postponed. Stephen said the point of bringing people together is what it's all about. That's what the Good Shepherd does. He brings people together instead of scattering them. We all need to look at what's bringing people together and what's driving them apart. We can't drive people apart in the name of bringing them together. It's not about accomplishing something or doing something. It's about bringing people together. Bringing people together, it's a theological opportunity. The Lord is our righteousness. There have always been righteous people. We don't need a shit show to bring us together. We need to see the opportunity in it. It's the most important thing we can see. This summer, let's have some fun. If tragedy happens, find the opportunity in it. Not the opportunity for rancor, condemnation, or abuse, but the opportunity of love. Last weekend was the Dearborn Garden Show here in Chicago. It was a lot of flowers and a lot of socializing. I saw a lot of friends from church and volunteering that I hadn't seen for quite a while because we've all kind of been scattered, but the friendships remain. We can all look at community and see what gets in the way of that. Economics, politics, religion, sex, making the world a better place. It all sounds good, but it often gets in the way of showing and sharing the love. Christ came and people either got it or they didn't. For the people who needed the proof and the evidence, there was the Old Testament prophecy aligned with the New Testament fulfillment. It was codified and rolled into the creation of the institutional church, which has been the vessel for those who were locked into the cult of not understanding. And it's been going on now for almost 2,000 years. Christ's message was merged into the ways of the world. And most of what's in our heads is a paid political advertisement. The New York Times had a story about Harvard report explaining why white people hate Black people this week. It explained that white people hate Black people because they feel Black people cut ahead of them in the line of prosperity due to globalization. They kind of gloss over the part about how globalization is apparently just a naturally occurring phenomenon and not a human construct. We have to ask what's bringing people together and what's driving them apart. Is it all about making money? When we look at the landscape, we can see what's bringing people together and what's driving them apart. And when they're together, are they feeling the love? Christ encountered trials and persecution. He was an enemy of the state and he was executed. But what's important is that people came together. People are still coming together wherever two or more are gathered. Christ was a personality. He exited the program so we could come together, and we can all do so regardless, because of our and in spite of our personality. If you would like to join us at Sunday Coffee Hour is every Sunday at 12 noon Central Time on Zoom. I will include my email in the description of this video. Be happy to send you an invitation. And I look forward to seeing you very, very soon.